Unscripted, unfiltered, unapologetic. Diner stops and real talk. The voice of farmers, not politicians or promise makers. Just honest conversation about agriculture's biggest issues. At the table today. This is The Farmer's Table, an original series from Pivot Bio.
Hi, I'm Andrew McCrae, host of the American Countryside and a farmer in Northwest Missouri. We welcome you back for the next episode of The Farmer's Table, the place where farmers gather to have their say on the most important issues of the day. Today, the focus is on something that impacts farms far and wide, big and small, the impacts of an unreliable supply chain. We have three farmers who join me at the table: Kyle Samp of Moberly, Missouri, Krystal Doolittle of Williams, Iowa, and Steve Olson of Plainview, Texas. Steve kicks things off by asking the question on every farmer's mind these days.
So I was just kind of curious, what did you guys see in the supply chain that just blew your mind that you thought you'd have but you didn't?
For us, equipment has been a big problem, and the herbicide situation. Those are like the biggest ones I think that we've really struggled with.
It's been weird stuff for me. Like gauge wheel tires for a planter was the thing that I had trouble getting this spring, and it took me like 6 weeks to get gauge wheel tires when normally
it's a phone call.
Could you guys get the equipment you wanted? We had trouble just finding equipment sometimes, or to trade for it.
Well, you can always find about anything you want as long as you're willing to pay for it. I haven't been able to find any bargains is my problem.
We were looking at a cotton stripper baler, you know, and it's $1 million piece of equipment, and you're sitting there going, this is just ludicrous to think that you're going to pay that for. And my first stripper was $118,000. I mean, it's just incredible how much that stuff has gone up. And it's still doing the same job.
Why even charge this? Like at that point, it's like money's not real.
It's like you're using monopoly money, really, you know.
So we had some issues with parts, especially this spring. We'd need some random thing for your field cultivator or the planter, and we'd call around and go hunt down a couple different times, 2 or 3 different times. It was like the last one in the whole state, and we're driving an hour away to some random town we've never been in to just get this one part that you need. So then you're trying to be ahead of it, like, okay, what are we gonna need? So I feel like it's forcing us to really try and think.
Yesterday I paid $70 for a $12 part because I needed it right then. So I think these things get solved long term just simply because the money's there to solve it. Like if you got to have something, you got to have something. And
but the thing is, we're not sustainable at that level.
No,
you've got to be paying $12 for the $12 product.
I understand that.
Yeah, and so we feel like I did that because I had to, but was it good for my operation?
That's a discussion I had with my dad after I looked up. Like I bought the part because I knew I needed the part, and I knew it was wildly overpriced, and I made the mistake of looking it up. I was talking to Dad about this. I was like, we're fortunate right now to be in an environment where we can absorb these costs of all these disruptions, but what are we going to do when commodity prices aren't keeping up with where our prices are? That's the concern long term. And
I think as a business model, we got to be really worried about that, because when we're overpaying for something, that's the profit that's going to carry us through the next thing, that we're missing.
Yeah, that's what concerns me is what happens when we've been paying the $70 and now it's back to 12, but we've been paying 70. Suddenly all the extra is gone.
I have a sales rep that loves to remind me that whenever I price something from him, he'll be like, oh, well, it's just 6 bushels of beans. It's what it was 2 years ago when beans were $8. So, prices haven't increased. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. You're not writing the check.
and you're not paying for it in beans.
No.
That's the other thing.
Yeah, it's still dollars. I haven't tried to barter yet.
Do you think we'll go back? Will we just kind of keep doing things this way? I mean, supplies will probably stick around. But
I hope we go back. I hope it's a little easier and we're able to quit worrying about it so much, but I don't know.
I I don't see how things will normalize. I mean, I can't imagine things are going to, I'm sure they'll stay chaotic here for a little while, but there's too much financial motivation to not make it crazy. I mean, somebody will find a way to make things run smooth again, just because there's a lot of rewards for making that happen.
I just, you know, we find ourselves wondering, when is that going to happen? Because, you know, certain parts of the world don't have COVID under control at all anymore, and they're still shutting down areas where there's a lot of manufacturing and production going on, and that impacts us in a way that I think we're kind of insulated from, because it's not happening in the U.S. And so then it's, you know, we're sitting there trying to think, how far out do we need to be buying things we might need? You know, it's nice to have it if you need it, but if price is going to drop, you don't want to have all this money put into it, and you could have waited 2 months, 6 months.
Did you guys run into any trouble getting crop protection stuff that you would normally use, or?
We have, and I mean, it's been a deal where if you want it, you're going to pay for it now before we're going to bring it, and then, you know, that kind of a deal, and which is no problem because you're going to use it anyway. But it's a totally different scenario.
We kind of, I mean, I'm thinking this spring we had to call some audibles in season because things that we would normally use, just they weren't available at any price. We've been able, like the retailer we work with has done a really good job of keeping stuff in supply, but even, you know, they had troubles with getting stuff scheduled, and a lot of times, like, they don't know what to price this stuff to us at, because, you know, they're not going to get a price for it until it's getting offloaded at their place. So that's been a real issue for us as far as a management standpoint. I was like, how do you budget for a crop? How do you market a crop when you don't have any idea what you're going to have sunk into it?
Yeah, with some stuff, we, you know, when we kind of knew what we were going to need for the spring, we just really tried to get them to deliver stuff in the middle of the winter time. You know, so we had it, and we wouldn't have to worry so much this spring about it. But it, you know, it's just funny because then it's stuff you wouldn't think you have to worry about. Like the building we always keep stuff in is not heated, it's not insulated. So then it's the dead of winter, and, you know, it's like full of random stuff, and we're having to empty it out and move stuff around to these other things, because we usually just have that stuff. It's warm in the spring and summer when we need stuff, so it's just all these other moving parts that you just, you know, you're spending time in your meetings, and then you're emptying out sheds and moving stuff around. And
well, at least we all got to be creative.
I know. There's a lot of that in agriculture right now.
Farmers have always taken care of what they value. They cultivated bountiful land and fed a nation hungry for progress. As Americans dialed up, precision on the farm led to yields once thought impossible. But when it came to nitrogen, it wasn't precise or predictable enough. Farmers deserve a nitrogen worthy of who they are and what their land can provide. And now there is one.
So do you think, you know, prices are higher with the supply chain, so do the prices just stay there, and do we keep buying stuff in advance like we've done in the past, or what do you think?
Well, I think the thing is we've got to make sure that we're protecting the crop that we've got. And if that means a little bit higher, you know, we've got to do that. If it means a lot higher, we may hold back and see what happens, you know.
I mean, we're not going to be able to stop spending, like, kind of like what you're saying, we're not going to be able to stop spending money on a crop. We can't do anything until we raise bushels. Like, without bushels, our problems become a lot worse than not having a supply of things. So I think it's just like, I'm not going to stop buying fertilizer just because it's expensive. Like, I'm going to have to buy it. Like, I can't grow a crop without it. I don't have any avenues to, like, I don't have a hog barn on my farm. I don't have a dairy nearby. Like, there is no solution for me other than buying commercial fertilizer right now.
So do you go ahead and buy it ahead?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm brave enough or not. Not without a really good hedging strategy, we'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy it ahead, do you need to sell your whole crop ahead? I mean, we always deal with a lot of dollars, but this is a lot of dollars.
Yeah.
I think you sell it along, you know, a little bit here and a little bit there, and make sure that you're okay with what you have bought, you know.
That is a good point, though. I mean, the risk profile is so much higher right now than it has been in the past. I'm not a young man, or I'm not an old man, but let me fix that. I'm not an old man, but But I've been doing this for a while. I think this is my 18th crop. So I've been through some of these cycles before. I think back to 2008 when fertilizer prices were really high and commodity prices were really high, and I got stuck holding the bag on some expensive fertilizer and didn't have enough crop hedged, and it made for a very long winter. So I think you do need to be very proactive in protecting yourself if you're going to be locking stuff in.
And I think the big picture is, like that, you'd say, well, that was a mistake. Well, actually it was really a learning experience.
It was a very expensive, that was a lesson. The best lessons in life are the ones that cost you a lot of money.
And tuition is expensive.
It is.
And you live through it and you go on, and so you can't really worry about that too much.
That's true.
And I think, that's so much more of an incentive to be as efficient as possible when you're in the field, because you've got to run your equipment either way. And I wish that was easier for people to understand too. For me, it just drives home the fact that it's just so costly for us right now to be out there running stuff. And that's why, for me, it's just a reminder that we're trying so hard to be efficient at all times with what we're doing out there.
Do you think anything could have been done to, say, prevent higher prices, or was this just kind of the setup because we had to go through COVID and we had so much money went into the economy and so forth? Was there anything we should have been aware of that now we look back 2 years and say, boy, I wish I'd have done that different?
Well, I can think of a lot of things that I would have done different if I would have known ahead of time, right?
Yeah. You wouldn't have sold corn, way early now. That's so.
But I think that's why your rearview mirror is so small, but your windshield's so big. You sit there and you look back in the back and you think, man, we shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's not there. And you got to move forward and keep looking ahead and let those things that burnt you make you a better operator.
When it comes to managing volatile times and an unreliable supply chain, experience is a valuable tool to lean on. And that experience is the result of lessons every farmer, including myself, have learned the hard way. We want to thank Steve, Krystal, and Kyle for their honest, candid, and timely insights. We'll see you next time on The Farmer's Table.